Redditors who massively fucked up at work. What happened? A very important and very big customer placed an order for some chemical bulk to be delivered early Jan. Our contract with them stated that every day we were late we would be fined millions. The bulk plant finished on time and just needed the drums to pour the bulk into. Warehouse come up to my office. I was the purchaser responsible for buying the drums. Where are the 250-liter drums? Bulk plant need them. It's fine, I thought. I placed the order before Christmas. I remember doing it. Looks at SAP, why is the supplier late? They're never late. Checks my order, mouth goes instantly dry and I start to sweat. I had placed the order. But I forgot that for this particular supplier I needed to email them the PO. We had just changed the system to allow SAP to auto-email the supplier after we placed an order. But not for this one supplier. I knew this. But must have forgotten. These drums had a 2-week lead time from the supplier, so I knew I was dead. Not only would we have had millions of pounds of fines, but the production plant would have been put on hold, having to store tons of bulk with nowhere to put it. I went and told my boss and just told him I had funked up. Being an awesome guy and boss, he thanked me for being honest and told me it's going to be okay. He called the supplier. Sweet talked them. And because we were a good customer, they allowed us to take another customer's order. The drums were delivered next day. That was about 9 years ago and I still think about it. Accidentally left out the move next method on a loop that sent out an email broadcast, which meant it mailbombed the first recipient in the loop until we realized what was happening and killed the process. The CEO's email was the first email address in the loop. He was an arsehole anyway, and was absolutely incoherent with rage when his Outlook crashed when downloading 15,000 emails inviting him to take a satisfaction survey. Good thing it was only a test. I was a bartender. I knocked down the entire top shelf. Thousands of dollars in liquor. ETA, I didn't get in trouble, the boss just built a stronger shelf. He found it hilarious that the only thing I saved was a $6 bottle of sloe gin that happened to be on the wrong shelf. Chemistry teacher here. On my first day of teaching, I set my classroom on fire after some unfortunate incidents involving sodium, water and a glass tank. The problem was that the glass tank was too big, so the hydrogen gas got to build up to a decent amount. Then suddenly kaboom! The glass tank exploded. There was shattered glass everywhere and hit the students, who were all wearing safety glasses. A column of water grew from the glass tank to the ceiling and the ceiling started to burn. After a few moments the fire died out and the fire alarm was loud and I had to make sure all of the students were okay. Which they were. It ended up being one of my funniest classes to teach for many years. The students absolutely loved it. I was a bit of a nervous wreck for a few hours. The worst thing in hindsight is all of the comments saying things like, "You started your career with a bang," and stuff like that. Slammed a forklift into a Camaro. I love telling this story. Back in the floppy disk, pre-internet days of computers, I was tasked by my job to do a software installation on board a Coast Guard icebreaker. I flew from Ottawa to Halifax. Then I caught a taxi to CFB Shearwater, from where a Twin Otter flew me 1,000 kilometers north to a little town on the border of Quebec and Labrador. From there I was flown by helicopter to do an at-sea landing on the icebreaker. After landing I went down to the engine control room, where the computer was located, and laid out the disks. Disk 1. Disk 2. Disk 3. Disk 4. Disk 6. Disk 5 was still on my desk in Ottawa. I dropped a screw inside the engine. Edit. Motor. Of a TGV train. Oh God. We spent half an hour trying to catch it by moving a magnetic stick inside the crankshaft. With oil spilling everywhere. The engine was new and about to be mounted on a train that was supposed to run later in the day. I was so terrified I would possibly cause quite a lot of trouble since no other train or engine was available. Shout out to my manager who finally got that screw and definitely deserved his half a dozen of croissants the next morning. I was a nanny. A little 2-year-old I was watching fell down and hit the back of her head on the concrete. I rushed over to her but she didn't move or blink. Just laid on her back motionless. I tried to check for breathing and pulse and pretty much blanked on everything I'd ever learned in CPR, first aid training in my panic. She seriously looked dead. I screamed for help. The neighbors came running. I told them to call an ambulance, the police, fire department. Ambulance showed up within minutes. She was rushed to the hospital and a million tests were run. Turns out she barely even had a bruise. No concussion. No seizure. No injury. Nothing. The doctor said she probably just got scared and froze. For just long enough for me to lose my shit. Her parents were charged $5,000 to tell them their child got surprised. Edit. Thank you to everyone for your kind and reassuring comments. And to those who let me know that fainting from involuntarily breath holding or stun responses is not uncommon. Honestly was expecting to get brigaded with. What a dumb cunt. Comments. Working the stockroom at Malwart. Grabbed a Pepsi pallet with the forklift and didn't realize it was a short pallet. The forks came out the other side and through to the pallet of glass Coke bottles it was up against. When I lifted the Pepsi, the Coke came up with it and dumped the entire unwrapped pallet of glass bottles, spilling all that sticky soda on the floor. That mess was hell to clean up. However, the vendor had to eat the cost because that store's posted policy is that they cannot leave unwrapped pallets unless it is being worked. Not me personally, but a guy the first worked with at a feed mill accidentally added the incorrect mineral bags to the sheep feed mix that contained copper. Wiped out an entire flock of over 100 sheep. I worked in a pizza place and they caught me eating olives on camera. It wasn't 2 to 3 olives. I could eat like 1,000 in a shift. I really don't know why, and it's a time in my life I want to forget. I work at a quick lube style shop. So I work around fairly new vehicles. I wish I could say it's all cheap shit. But no. Dude comes in one day for one of our services. So I'm doing everything under the hood of a BMW 7 Series. We fill the oil. Ran the pressure check. Closed the hood because the newer BMWs have a digital oil read out on the screen in the dash. Dude leaves. Comes back 5 hours later. Hood is fucking smoking. Aw fuck. We open the hood and there's about 3 quarts of oil in the engine compartment. I didn't put the oil cap back on properly like I thought I did. Man, I was pissed. My first day working at a coffee shop, I left my Sharpie in the oven. Finally found it while trying to warm a sandwich and had to shut the whole thing down to be cleaned. It smelled like a chemical weapon. Edit. I went to sleep and woke up to my highest rated comment. There go my 15 minutes I guess lol. I was new to SQL and accidentally mailed a list of people with deceased_date as not null instead of as null. So an entire marketing campaign was sent to dead people. That eventually led to our marketing tools being hard-coded not to mail dead people, which makes sense. But I was terrified when I found out. During the first week of my first job in animation after I graduated, I had to move a bunch of scene files from one server to another. The files were heavy, so I was told to just cut and paste them to make it faster. I accidentally put them in a wrong area and without thinking just deleted them. Went back to move the files again. They weren't there. I had forgotten I hadn't copied them. I lost 5 minutes of full animation. My longtime friend who recommended me for the job got in shit because his backups didn't catch the files, and my direct supervisor worked for 21 days straight to help redo all the animation. The studio and everyone involved were way nicer to me about it than I expected. I kept my job and I brought in donuts for the whole crew for a week after. But it was an awful start. Years ago I worked in an office and had a very cool boss who was the general manager. He and I were quite close and used to joke around all the time. I had been corresponding with a fairly important customer overseas about an issue they were having and I needed information from her to move forward. I asked for info a few times but she kept coming back with different details than what we needed. I sent an email to my boss saying something like, "I can't believe I asked the same simple question 3 times and this is what I get in reply." Except I didn't send that email to my boss. I sent it to the customer. I was in a panic when I realized what I had done. Went to my boss to let him know what happened and he thought it was hilarious but that I should write a brief apology to her for an outburst. Was dreading the reply the next morning, but to my astonishment our customer actually apologized to me for not paying attention. Felt like I got away with murder. The chef was angry that day. I was advised by my coworkers to do whatever it takes to get on his good side. I thought, I'll just try to avoid him. He was standing in the cooler taking inventory. Beside him were the 5-gallon containers of prepped food. I sneaked in and tried to quickly grab the ranch container. But in my haste, I nudged another. It was the French onion soup. All 5 gallons of it. On his pants and shoes. Yes. He was upset. The prep girl was upset. I had 10 minutes till lunch service started. I have no idea how I'm still alive. Controls engineer. Made a copy-paste error while programming and a 2 was a 3. So one machine tagged at 3 was waiting for conditions of 2. so naturally the lift moved when it thought it should and crashed into another machine. Of course I'm having to stand there figuring out the issue while maintenance is up there replacing busted parts. But because I've made 1,000 changes it didn't click fast enough and well. It happened again.